Hi, I'm Julia Costa, and I was asked to describe the general functions of the main classes of organic molecules in cells. Starting off, there are four main classes, which are carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids. Each of these molecules has unique properties and performs critical roles to support the structure and function of cells. Starting off with carbohydrates, the energy, storage, and fuel for carbohydrates like starch and glycogen can be stored in cells and broken down to provide energy source for cells. For structure and support, complex carbohydrates like cellulose provide structure and support in plant cell walls. For metabolism regulation, glycogen regulates glucose availability and metabolism, as carbohydrates regulate metabolic pathways as energy sources. For information storage and transfer, sugars like ribose and deoxyribose are key components of RNA and DNA, allowing storage and transmission of genetic information. Next up, we have proteins. Proteins like hemoglobin transport oxygen through blood, as ferritin stores and releases iron in cells for transportation and storage. For a cell structure, structural proteins like actin and tubulin from the cytoskeleton give cell shapes and structure. For motion, motor proteins like myosin and kinesin generate forces and motion in muscle contraction, cargo transportation, and flagella. As for signaling, receptor proteins in membranes and signaling proteins like insulin transmit signals to coordinate cell activities. Next up, we have lipids, which serve many important functions in cells. Starting with energy storage, lipids like triglycerides and fatty acids are highly concentrated energy storage. They are broken to provide ATP molecules when needed. Next, for the cell membrane, phospholipids were major components of cell membranes when they form the layer that provides a barrier between the cell and environment. As for protection, the lipid layer membrane protects the cell contents from the external environment. For temperature regulation, fat layers below the skin insulate organisms and help regulate body temperature. As for energy transport, lipoproteins transport lipids through extracellular fluid and blood to distribute energy sources. Lastly, we have nucleic acids like DNA and RNA perform several critical functions in cells. For information storage, DNA stores genetic information in a sequence of nucleotide bases. This provides instruction to make specific proteins and RNAs. For transcription, DNA is transcribed into RNA transcripts, which can then be translated into proteins. This allows gene expression. As for translation, messenger RNA carries genetic information from DNA and is read by ribosomes and synthesized proteins. As for regulation, DNA transcription is regulated by proteins that bind to specific DNA sequences. This controls gene expression. Lastly, we have structural support, which DNA provides the structural support for chromosomes as RNA maintains structural integrity of ribosomes.